Dafnis Prieto is from Cuba. He's a composer and a percussionist. He teaches at NYU, and he's on our website, the Artist House website. Please welcome Dafnis Prieto. Thanks for coming. So Dafnis just did a master class with the. Can you get up there, Bubba?
Yes, I did.
We changed the seat.
I think I did.
You're okay. Dafnis did a master class with the Monk students, and he's also doing one tomorrow at NOCA at 1:30, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
2:30.
2:30. If anybody wants to go, well, let me know. We'll hook you up. So Dafnis, notice you brought a couple of recordings.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you working on now? And you mentioned earlier you were starting your own company.
Yes, I had such a great experience with the record labels that I had to make my own. So these two records that are available here for you, whoever is interested, are actually made by Soho Music. Well, I licensed it to them. I kind of self-produced these recordings, and they actually put it out as a label. And now I'm just got so enthusiastic in putting my own label, and I did, and I have a record coming out in May. And the 6th of May is the release date, but it's going to be available like in 2 weeks or so in CD Baby and Amazon and iTunes and stuff like that. So yes, I did got my own label. It's called Daphnis Music, and I'm really optimistic about it because I want to put a lot of my projects there, which I think a lot of record company won't be interested into these projects, and I will. So I will definitely put it out for the people, to enjoy it and listen to it.
Are you going to record other artists as well?
I'm not really thinking about that now. So far, I have a lot of ideas and a lot of projects in my mind that I want to put out through that label, and that's already going to take me a lot of time and economics also.
What about distribution? Are you trying to do retail distribution?
I already have been spoken to Allegro Music, which is the same distributor that I've been using through Soho, and they actually response today to me this morning. They say they were interested, so I keep my finger crossed to see if we can make a deal for physical distribution, which is a good thing also. But as it's looking, so far it's looking like everything is going slowly into the process of making downloads and stuff like that. Most probably 5 years is going to be more a percentage of this kind of sales, downloads in iTunes and CD Baby and stuff.
Do you have a manager?
I do have a manager, yes.
How are they helping you with this? Are they involved in this process?
Well, they actually, my manager, I have a really good relation with him besides the business also. So he's actually helping me a lot besides the fact of being only my manager, like trying to support myself in this kind of situation. So he's helping me. I mean, I have not economics help in this kind. Wow. He's helping me. Let's say, I have the idea of the cover of the album and the whole thing, and how to phrase the introduction lines and stuff like that. How to put it better. How does it works to make it more effective to the people to see the idea that I want to. Go through with the music and the CD itself. So
you're basically financing the operation yourself?
Yes, everything. That's what I've been doing anyway with this album. What I've been doing with these albums is actually I present the finished product to this label, to the Soho Music, and then they just take me picture, put the lines together, and then they sell it, and then they sell the CDs to me.
Oh.
And they sell it to everybody else, and then it's like this kind of thing which I don't really understand. But actually, you know what? I'm really grateful that it came through this way, because I think a lot of musicians have been in very worse position than myself in terms of seeing the, kind of the economics of the record is just whatever you see in front and stuff like that. I always want to keep myself the master of it because I always had in mind to develop my own kind of system to sell my music somehow. And more than selling is I want people to just the fact of the people to listen to the music itself. Mm-hmm. So you can go to my website and listen like 3 tracks of my new album already in my website.
What's your website?
It's daphnesprieto.com. Just my name.com.
I see. So do you have you find it's okay, you have no difficulty being the creative person and the business person? How do you divide your day?
Yeah, and the family person too.
Oh, the family person too.
Well, it's complicated. I finish my day really exhausted.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I finish my day probably at 1 o'clock in the morning. Just I can't do more. This is it for today.
So you have young children?
Yes, I have 1 year. He's 4 years old. Wow. 1 boy. But
so how do you balance these 3 lives?
Well, I try to. This is what I'm dealing with now. I'm dealing with the promotion people. I have to pay the people that are doing first of all, there's one person that is doing the press promotion of this new record, let's say. Besides the money itself, is a lot of communication involved because you want that person to get a lot of what you've been doing before so he can actually kind of sell you, the whole idea to the press people. Then you have to get a radio promotion guy, which is actually, in terms of budget, is twice expensive than this guy that is doing the press release. And the same idea, you communicate with them. First of all, they have to be interested in it.
Right.
Otherwise, they don't do it. So it's that kind of thing. I mean, I'm grateful that everything is going, step by step, but in a very positive way. Most of them, they know me and they know my work, my previous work and stuff. So they were excited that I was interested in them to share this work with, and they're gonna do it, I guess, a good job.
Do you know what your market is? What is your market? Who is your market? Who are you trying to sell your music to?
Well, to whoever is interested. I'm not really focused in a certain kind of person or a certain kind of individual. I think any individual would be interested in this kind of music, and not necessarily have to be musicians. There is a lot of people that comes to my performance that they are not musicians, and they probably appreciate that more, the music, that people that are all the time trying to figure out things.
Right. So you write your own music?
I do. That's what I wouldn't. I wouldn't spend that much money to play somebody else's music.
Huh, interesting. Do you have a publishing company?
I do have a publishing company.
Do you run that too?
Yes.
You're busy.
Yeah, I'm very busy.
Well, tell us about your performing life in the groups that you play in and how often you perform and where you perform.
Well, I'm trying to actually, little by little, to shorten my sidemen.
You want a small group?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do more of my own right now than doing the sidemen, with some other bands.
Is that how you've been traditionally working in the past, as a sideman?
Yeah, I mean, mostly. I mean, when I got here, I had to work a lot as a sideman. That's what I've been doing. But I've been working. I've been lucky enough to work with really important and really people that I admire as a musician.
Who have you worked with?
I've worked with a lot of people. I'm going to mention a few. It's actually a wide variety of music. With Eddie Palmieri, with Michel Camilo, with Chucho Valdez, with Steve Coleman, Henry Traeger, Andrew Hill.
That's a number of different styles there.
It is very. I'm not into it. I don't feel myself identifying any style.
You can play whatever you need to play.
Yeah, I mean that's what I prepare myself for. when I start playing music. I didn't want to be, specifying in which music I want to be. I actually want to interpret the music that I represent in my lifetime, which is everything that you see around yourself, plus the influence that you get from tapes and books and artwork and stuff like that.
You play as you're playing the drum set and percussion?
I mostly play trap set, the drum set itself. And when I'm playing with my bands, I have different projects. I have one which is the regular quintet, which is one of the albums there. Then I have my absolute quintet, which is last year got nominated for a Grammy.
Really?
And, and last year also, I was myself nominated for the Latin Grammy as the Best Artist of the Year.
Wow.
And this new album that is coming out, that is a sextet. But I wrote, besides drumming itself, I think I'm keeping more busy to write music because I also do a lot of commissioning work.
I was going to ask you, do other people play your music?
Yes.
They solicit the music from you? Do you have songs from me?
Exactly.
And your commissions, where do they come from?
Well, the commissions comes from different sources. Sometimes from Chamber Music America, they support my work.
Really?
Sometimes Meet the Composer also support my work. Sometimes specific organizations like the Trumpet Consortium that was created in New York, they actually commissioned me to write a piece for a trumpet and percussion within the chamber music context. And different kind of people. I've written pieces for a brass quintet.
Really?
And music for percussion quartets also. And I wrote a piece 2 years ago for the Lincoln Center Jazz Big Band.
Well, where did you acquire all these skills? And you told me earlier that you didn't come from a musical family.
Right.
Necessarily. So how did you become this? When did it hit you? You were who you are.
Well, there's a lot of things coming together at the same time, but it's mostly a lot of loneliness work that it takes to be able to do that. I mean, this is, I'm completely self-taught on drums. I did classical music in the school. I did 8 years of classical training in Cuba as a classical training musician. Everything else, like jazz or pop music or whatever other music, I'm completely self-taught. And I'm completely self-taught also in composition, which is...
kidding. Well, you must have listened to people. You must have had heroes. Who were your heroes?
Yeah, I mean, mostly of the people that I've been working with, plus, from the earliest music, like from Johann Sebastian Bach to Schönberg and to Henry Tregel, which is still alive.
Oh.
I mean, I learn a lot from all these people that I've been working with, and just for listening to music. And I study their scores. I have scores in my house to study with, and I listen to the music and get the scores and read books and stuff like. It's like being in the school, but in your own house.
Right.
But you're the one that you're your own professor. I really believe in, and this is something that I really want to share with you guys, because I went to school as you guys came here, and a lot of people actually go to school and they invest all this time and money or whatever you want to invest in the school, and then you just walk out of the school and all this dream, if you have any, it just disappear after you kind of get out of the school. In my way, actually, in my experience, it was all the opposite. I mean, I had a lot of time myself to practice, and I put a lot of time when I was at the school, but when I get out of it, I say, now is the time for me to make my own school. I believe a lot of who's learning more than who's teaching. And this is very important because we have, 30 people in the class, maybe 10 people are getting really the point of what the professor is trying to tell you. And maybe 20, they are not interested. And they don't, you learn a lot even from things that you don't want it to do. It's good to hear a professor that you don't want to follow too. It's a good thing. Because you're the one that is learning what you want to do or not. that's very important. You know, the professor doesn't mean that you have to do whatever the professor is telling you to do at this moment. Okay, I do it and whatever it is, but after you finish school, then you're on your own. You have to learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do, even from this, situation. So that's what I did. I went, after the school finished and the whole thing, I just have to do this on my own. Start, practicing myself and getting as much information as possible, reading and doing a lot of homework to be able to, when these circumstances, like the Lincoln Center, present me the opportunity and commission me to write a piece for the big band. That was for me quite an experience, because I actually did this this big band piece in a month, all by handwritten. And I kind of became a crazy guy in the living room of my house with a piano and a big table with all these pages running around. And that's what I did for a whole month. And it took me, I learned through this experience that I had to actually get into writing the music on the computer so I can paste and do things like that. It's easier and more effective, So, this is a lot of things to talk, but this is just one thing that I want to mention. It's not only because sometimes people say, well, I didn't learn that in school, so why would you do, that kind of thing. And it's not about what the teacher gives you, it's what you really want to learn. What you're really looking for here is the dream that you had at home before to come here to this school. It was to become, a musician or a music business, representative or whatever you want to call it. That's what is going to keep you all the way through your real career. This is not your career. This is a preparation for you. This is, 10 years from now, who knows what's going to happen. It depends really on your will, on what you have inside.
That's obviously great advice. Tell me about, when did you come to this country?
I came 8 years ago.
8 years.
Yeah.
So tell us about music education in Cuba. Would you say it was everybody had access to a music education?
Yeah, well, whoever got approved to go into the school, yes.
It was a music school, music
yes,
art school?
It was a music school. Yes.
I see. So you had to audition for it?
Exactly.
I see. And then it was all music all the time, or?
Oh no, it was a half and half. Like you say, in the morning we have just the normal class, like math and science and stuff like that. And then in the afternoon, we have music and stuff like that.
And then you say you lived a lot of you must have been, how old when you left Cuba?
I was...
Your 20s?
I was 25. I'm 33 now.
Right. So what caused you to come?
A lot of different reasons, and the first reason is the same reason that I was explaining to you guys now. I wanted to develop myself as a musician, and the only way I could do that it was playing with the people that I really admire. I have this contact directly with them. It's a different thing to listen to Andrew Hill's or Steve Coleman music from a tape than sharing this experience with him. It's actually it becomes a different person to you, somehow, and that's what I wanted to do. That was my focus, to develop myself as a musician as much as I can.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I want to see myself in the beach relaxing and
for a week, maybe.
I don't know. I'm working in a lot of things. I guess in the same position, but with gray hair.
Grayer. So what do you teach as well?
Yeah, I teach.
So when you teach, what are you trying to? Do you have a philosophy to your teaching? You're trying to convey to your students?
Yeah, my philosophy is basically I try to tell them that they're the ones that have to do what they wanted to do. I'm just kind of a tool for them, an advisor, and I can run, things a certain way for them. But they're the ones that have to do the homework. I can do nothing for them, really. I'm just giving them the information. And I try to actually give them the approach of music is not only the patterns and the scales and the technical things that you actually learn itself in most of the school. You have to actually point yourself all the time of what is the optimum situation that you want to be in and rehearse and practice that way too.
That's the way you do it. You define where you want to go, and then you figure out a way to get there.
Yeah. I teach them, like the rhythms. I say, specific rhythms and stuff. But I say, now you know the rhythm already. Now you have to give me more. You have to improvise with it. You have to really mean. You have to really mean what what you're trying to say with this rhythm. It's not only to play the rhythm. I know the rhythm. I know the rhythm. I know the rhythm. It's not about that. Is do as much as you can and varieties of texture, sounds, and colors, and etc., 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 with that rhythm. So that rhythm is going to help you to even develop into something else. It's this kind of imagination where I'm trying to get them involved too. Because otherwise they just become, for me, just a regular musician that just playing whatever they learn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're just learning and imitating
right.
what they're listening to it all the time.
So they have to find their own voice.
Yeah, basically that's the whole point.
That's the hardest challenge. How does somebody do that? How do you give them?
You expose them all the time to it until they start hating you or they start loving you. But you have to put them in that situation where you say, okay, now let's just focus in this rhythm. I want you to develop this rhythm in so many different ways that I want to somehow to be listening to that rhythm, not even thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? That's the way you have to play the music. It's the same way, we're talking now. I'm not thinking in the words that I'm using to communicate with you.
Right.
I'm completely improvising what you're saying, the same as well you're doing with me. And this is the same thing in music. We have to interact. As a musician, we interact a lot. And all these things, I try to relate it with life and nature and stuff like that, so we can get, as much sources as possible to integrate in your own playing as a musician.
Where do you find your inspiration? From the world?
From the world itself. I actually been studying lately a lot of arts, say painters like Picasso and Dali. Mostly Dali. I'm a big fan of Dali at this moment. I'm reading a lot of his work. I didn't actually know him that well until I started actually reading the work that he actually have wrote a lot of books.
Really?
He wrote a lot of books.
So how do you take Salvador Dali and translate that into a musical experience?
Oh, it's all about forms.
Ah.
Music is a form of sound, and let's say paints in this way and art is a form of the picture itself, of textures and balancing and stuff like. It's all the same for me. It's all the same for me. It doesn't really have anything. We're using the same tools.
So when you see a painting or you see art that affects you, you think musically?
Oh yeah. I see form in art. I see forms in music. It's the same. It's the same than doing music for a score. That's a very emotional, approach that you have to get. Is this let's say this momentum that it happens. How will you represent a tension and release in the music?
Right.
It's the same thing. How will you represent a tension and release in the painting?
Right. So do you discipline yourself to work at a certain time, or do you wait for inspiration to strike?
I don't stop. That's what's happening.
Oh, it's all the time.
I don't wait for anything. I don't stop. I was actually giving a class now, and I say, whatever you're gonna do, try to be focused in it all the time, because things and inspiration are going by you all the time.
That's right.
And you don't really realize them. I mean, maybe I have a lot of inspiration after we finish this conversation to do something, to do a solo or do a piece or do whatever, or maybe that sticks inside myself, and tomorrow I will be able to mix this information with with another conversation that I have with somebody else.
So then you just have to be aware. An artist has to be aware. Artist is aware.
I think so. I mean, if you wait, let's say, this is not a job for me.
Oh, it's
a pleasure. It's a way of life. For me, since I wake up, even without even opening my eyes, I'm already listening to it. I remember when I was a kid, I loved to listen to my mom's, in the kitchen, making coffee and stuff. I wasn't even, my eyes weren't open, and I was listening to it, and the smell of it, and the sound of the birds and stuff like that. This is all an inspiration motif for me.
Well, you sound totally tuned in. That's
well, as I said before, I try to not stop in this because, and even in the mechanical way, people always wait. Let's say in the drums perspective of it, people always wait until they get into the drums so they can practice something. I say, why are you waiting so long?
That's what's going on in your head.
Yeah, you can practice this thing on your head. You can practice right here. You can practice anywhere.
Do you play keyboards or other
Yeah,
instruments?
I play piano.
And you think that's important as a composer? Or?
It's very important, otherwise I wouldn't be able to compose anything.
I see. Do you compose at the piano?
Yes.
Interesting. So what are you listening to on your iPod? Do you listen to music?
I don't have an iPod.
You don't?
No.
Because it's all up here.
No, I have my music on my computer. Remember, I have a child, so toys or iPod.
I see.
But anyway, I don't have an iPod, but I don't really. I really do really specific things. Like, let's say one day I want to listen to like 12-tone kind of serialism approach into the music. I go to to chamber or to. But I don't. It's not really. I have so much stuff to do during the day that to listen to music is for me one of the last things really that I wanted to do. For me, it's more of making the music happening, of whatever I have in my mind, more than receiving all this information.
Well, you can probably make music with just sitting there, right? You don't have to have.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much you can construct.
What would you
things.
do if I asked you to make music right now? What would you do?
Oh my
Play
God.
your shoes? What?
Okay, I do this. Tikimbala comba con tergitac, tikimbala comba con tergitatumba, tikimbala comba con tergitac, tikimbala comba con tergitatumba, tikimbala comba con tergitac, tu pim pim pim, tikimbala tu kingin gin nak tikimbala tu kingin comba con tergitac, tikimbala tu pim pim, tikitak tikitumba tu pim pim, tikitak tikitak. Ting ting. Pa ping pa ping pa ping pa tikikit kun pa tikikit pa kun pa pa kun kun tikikit ping rong tak chicken tikikat tumba tikin ba chicken kat tumba rong. Whatever.
Easy for you to say. Well, that's fascinating. So, does anybody have any questions of our guest? Do you have does this strike a chord in you about this this artist that's sitting in front of you? Carlos.
Questions?
Hola. ¿Qué tal?
One.
Have you seen in the 8 years you've been here, Latin rhythms or Latin percussion progress in your experience in the music industry?
I think so. I mean, I have friends that they are working on it. The most representative guy that has been actually developing a lot of this stuff in this side, without even mentioning the people that are in Cuba. You have people like Giovanni Hidalgo and you have people like Pedro Martinez, which is doing a lot of development in ideas within the percussion language itself. I think there is a lot of people trying to do, and develop the vocabulary in the music. See, the way I see the music is a constant progressive line that it doesn't really stop. Somehow it comes this thing that kind of a style. It represents kind of a style thing, but if you don't develop that style, then you just become kind of forgotten, For me, that's the way I see it. I think everybody did, or a lot of people contribute to what we had what we have now as a tradition. We take this for granted. Okay, tradition, but who made that? Just human beings like us. Somebody did that tradition, and that tradition has to be developed for us, now getting it now. You know what I'm saying? So I really believe that there is as much stuff to become in the future that what it has been done. And that's the way I just think. That's the way I try to keep optimistic in that way, because that's the way I approach my drumming, my composition, and everything in life. But I think there is a lot of people in the percussive, scene in percussion that are doing a lot, and in different instruments too. I don't really. For me, it's a whole thing. For me, a musician is an individual that is interested in music. It's not only for me the beauty of it, and what I think it really develops, like what really develops Giovanni Hidalgo, besides being influenced by Changuito and Tata Wines and the great guys, like Patato Valdez and all these people, that has been, let's say, the set and the points of departure from it is that he has been listening to another instruments, and this it becomes, he absorbed this information and then throw it out there in a different instrument. It's gonna definitely develop into something else.
Interesting. Other question?
How many hours a week or days or whatever do you spend teaching, and how important is that to you, the teaching aspect of all the things that you do, like in the grand scheme of things, all the different parts of your music career? How important is teaching to you, and how does it help you? Okay.
Well, I'm going to tell you something sincerely. Before I started teaching, I didn't really like it at all. I was trying to consider myself all the time a performer and a kind of a bohemian life thing than being kind of a steady kind of a work thing. After I started in NYU, I actually have been getting a lot of. I've been learning so much as a professor. The fact of just giving away so much of your information, it already empty yourself and be open to learn more, because for me it doesn't really end the learning process, and that's the first thing I learned when I start teaching. Is that this thing never ends. It's never going to end. I'm gonna die and somebody else is gonna take this thing, and bring it somewhere else. Whatever I'm doing now, in 30 years, is going to be basics, or maybe the tradition itself, because a conscious mind is developing actually really fast of ourselves. We have 1,000 more information than what our parents had. So our conscious development of mind is going really fast. And the next generation is the same, and the next generation is the same. I see my son playing clave at 4 years old. I say, wow. For some reason, it's developing this thing. But anyway, going into the teaching thing. What was your question?
How much time a week do you spend doing it?
Oh, there you go.
What does it mean to you in the overall scheme of all music-related things that you do? How important is your teaching to you?
Well, it's very important, as I say, because it has been developing myself as a human being and as a musician, and to put together all these things that you kind of have it inside of yourself, because it's inside of yourself. You don't really ask and questioning at the same time. But the way I teach actually in NYU is very flexible, because I have to give this certain amount of hours a semester. Sometimes I do it really steady, say every week. Last semester I had seven private students as drummers and 2 ensembles. So between that and my life as a performer, that's already a lot of time consuming, because I have to give 14 hours a semester to each student. So I try to distribute that, obviously on my convenience, because I travel a lot too, playing around and stuff. So it has been good. It has been great. I think it's a great experience for me.
When you sit down at a drum set that you've never played before, how do you tune that set? Do you have a way that you do it every time?
No, I try to actually. I end up sometimes having the same tuning, but it's not something that I have set.
So it depends on the instrument?
Yeah, it depends on in the instrument. It depends on the room, a lot. It depends a lot in the circumstances of it.
And the music that you're playing.
And the music that I'm playing and stuff like that. I don't really have a set and a parameter kind of. This is a note. Let's play G, D, E, like that on the drums. I don't really.
So you don't think in terms of pitch?
No, I think. I think in terms of pitch, but what the moment needs. It's a different idea. It's a different thing that wants. It's like the same thing when you're going to talk to somebody. You prepare all this speech, right. And then you go there. It's like blah 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 blah. You don't say anything because you're premeditating too much of what is going to happen. And then you come. Let's say that I come here with a set of drums, and in my living room it sounds great, but in this hall it might sound horrible.
Right. So you're listening to the room that you walk into.
Yeah. I'm really in the moment.
And you'll adjust it as you go.
Tuning wise, it might, but not necessarily. I mean, at that moment after I start playing, I'm 100% into the sound.
Do you use the traditional set? So it's a bass drum and 2 toms and a floor tom.
And the floor tom and the snare. I use one cowbell and also a wood block also.
So you're not one of those guys that has all kinds of cymbals. You have.
No, I don't use that much thing. I do try to develop a lot of sounds from small thing.
I see. A small set, you mean?
Yeah, from the small set. So using different techniques in sticking and how to press the heads and how to create different textures and sounds within the same set.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily have to have like 100-piece drums,
right,
to make different sounds of it. You can make 1,000 sounds with a small set.
Right.
It's just in your mind. See, I think this is the fact that what is happening, and that you can see very well in any instrument. You get, let's say, a drum set played by 2 different people. It sounds just like a different sets.
Right.
And I do believe that the sound that it comes from that drum set, besides the fact that it's coming real time from the drum set, that sound is inside of your head.
Right.
And the textures and the musicality and this whole thing that comes out of this drum set from them is actually inside of yourself. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that is a drum set, whatever it is.
So when you're playing, you're not thinking of yourself as playing drums, but as playing music.
Exactly.
So you're trying to be really at one with that. It kind of goes from here to here without even going through your brain in a way?
Well, it's very simple thing. The brain really gives the information to your limbs to make it. If you develop your brain as well as your technique is in the limbs, and this connection is healthy, everything is, for me, the optimus point in the musician is when he's able to manifest or project anything that he has in his mind right at that moment, right away. He does not necessarily have to go through the practice room to make this happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You practice and develop certain skills and the technique to actually get up to that level where you're, let's say, improvising, and you're really improvising at that moment. So any idea that comes to your mind, you just go through. It's the same thing when you talk.
Right. It should be as if you were talking.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, music is a device. It's a way of communication. It's
Right.
nothing else than that. I mean, it's just let's say I'm talking with my mouth shut.
Right. Interesting.
Basically.
So you don't sing, though, right? Or do you sing?
Not in the very professional way, but I create certain kind of sounds with my mouth.
Oh, I see. Well, now, I know that the percussionist drummers are often very picky about cymbals.
Uh-huh.
How do you think of cymbals? How do you pick them out? Do you have different cymbals for different purposes, or?
Yes, I do. I think it's very basic for me to have the hi-hat, my left, let's say left, right, and my real right cymbal as the same quality of sound.
Quality?
Huh?
You mean like?
The quality of sound. Right now, I'm actually right now I've been using a very dark, dry sound in my cymbals since 4 or 5 years ago.
Dark, dry. So you don't want a lot of ring in your cymbals.
I don't want a lot of rings. I don't want a lot of highs.
Really?
No.
Why is that?
It doesn't feel up to my sound. The sounds that I have in my head doesn't have nothing to do with that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, do you make drums?
I don't make drum myself. No.
What about miking drums in a recording studio? Do you have a particular way you like to do that?
Not really. I mean, I've used so many techniques, or engineers have used on me different techniques to record.
So you just rely on the engineer?
Yeah, as long as it sounds the way I project it to.
Oh,
I always do the sound tech or sound check of the thing. Let's say I'm in a recording studio. I let him to do whatever because sometimes you wander and then the first thing you do is like you tell to the engineer, oh, could you do this? And then you start getting into his nerves already. Right. You haven't even started the session.
Right.
Okay? So I learned this thing. I say, well, I'm just going to let this guy do what he does, record it, go to the booth and see. And with him on my side, say, you see this, I need more of this, or at least I need a darker sound on this. I need to catch this sound better. Or this mic position should be in a different way in order for me to get this quality of sound. But after he does his thing, because, it's like, you learn, I have had a lot of, disagreements with sound engineers and stuff like that. Right. But I'm not really as picky as other drummers that I've known some drummers that they actually bring their own mics to the recording place. And they have just a certain and a specific way of doing certain things.
But actually, it depends on the room that they're in, right?
Exactly.
So it can't be the same every time. The mic might sound differently depending on the space.
Listen, man, there's people that do the same thing every day.
That's true. That's interesting. Do you ever wear anything on your wrists when you play?
No, I don't wear anything. I don't even wear a ring.
So you don't. When you're playing, it's only what you get from this hand, and this foot, and this foot.
Exactly. I don't like to wear that much. I never did. I actually remember once my mom wants to give me a gold chain, and I say, "Mom, this chain is going to be in the closet. I'm not going to use that. I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable with the thing."
So, but you wouldn't wear an instrument like, I recorded Jim Keltner one time, and he had music all over him. Like.
I did I play in a band when I was in Cuba that I actually use like a kind of a, I don't know how you call this thing in English.
Ankle brace?
Yeah, like a bracelet thing that it has a sound that I use it on my hi-hat and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But right now it's not really.
What's the clave in the jazz drum set? The hi-hat?
What do you mean the clave?
The time.
Well, I actually, that's an interesting thing. I try to actually keep my time or tempo or groove or whatever it is as a fundamental in the hi-hat. But doesn't necessarily have to be that obvious.
Right.
So, but I do try to keep a constant sound, kind of keeping the beat, let's say in the basics of it, in the hi-hat, because that means that I can at least know that I can rely on that and do all this development, different stuff on it, you know. Otherwise, it keeps some kind of the feet on earth, let's say.
Do you define a role for the bass drum and for the snare drum? Do you keep that role the same every time?
No, really. I mean, what it keeps the interesting part is that you can improvise on the bass drum sometimes too.
Right.
And keep everything steady or do the opposite. You know, you have to expose yourself to try the variety of the possibilities. It will be, it will help you to have as much variety as possible. You know, if you only can get the ball from the right side, and at the time you're going to do this, somebody do this, what are you going to do with this hand?
Do you think of yourself as when you create, are you looking for what you don't know or trying to do what you do know?
Both. The balance of these two things is what it makes, I think, a very optimus performance.
Interesting.
What you really know, plus the challenge of exposing yourself of not knowing what is coming at the same time. You know.
Andrea?
How do you think that the political situation in Cuba affects the music industry in the country, in the island?
In the country?
In the island of Cuba, how does that political
It does affect
situation?
because it does affect. Unfortunately, we're dealing with politics in this life. I'm not really that much of a political person, but I have a lot of bad things to say about that. So I don't really want to talk about that. I mean, from any country. I don't really believe in this war itself, but that's a bigger issue. It does affect in the music itself because, we kind of, let's say, isolated from the rest of the world. And it did affect up to the point that we left all this information here, let's say in the 60s, and in New York with this information, or in anywhere in the United States, it developed the Cuban music in a certain way, and in Cuba it developed in a different way. So it actually had different kind of sound, even though it came from the same source. You understand what I'm saying? So since the '59 on the revolution itself, we got this isolation thing, which means that we couldn't really get that much information from the outside as well as giving to the outside. So we didn't have that much interaction of music. It's the same thing. You're gonna, if you do that with yourself, if you don't go out of your house for 30 years, you're gonna see what you're gonna look like when you come out of it. It's the same kind of circumstances, It does affect. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about I don't know if you've ever played with another drummer with two sets.
Mm-hmm.
If you have, can you talk about that? Or if you haven't, could you talk about like playing with another percussionist when you're playing set?
It is a different experience to play. I do kind of developed a lot of percussion ideas and vocabulary into the drum set itself. So playing with the percussionist, I have to actually kind of stay away a little bit of what I've been kind of developing in that sounding thing, and try to share a sound rule for both of us. It is definitely different for me, the experience of playing, let's say, with a trio or a quartet or a quintet or the sextet itself with no percussion, that happening with a percussion, because I will have to play different things. I mean, it's all about what you're listening to it. For me, the music, the idea of sharing the music is what you feel the music needs at that moment. If it's doing a classical, let's say, pattern, kind of what you have to do. But if it's not there, then you can do it all. I mean, that's in my case. I have nothing against it to do it with or without the percussion player, but always the percussionist. There is different kind of percussionists as there is different kind of musicians, but I think it's hard to it's harder to create more open spaces and stuff like that when you're playing with the percussionist yourself. At least this percussion player has the same approach as you have musically. You know, that's what's happening with percussionists. A lot of them. There is a lot. There's some others that are into like creating more open spaces and develop different circumstances in the music itself. But there is this kind of percussionists that they just want to play this pattern and that's it. It doesn't matter if it sounds good or bad with the music. They just know this pattern. They're just gonna play the pattern and that's it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens with any kind of musician, but in this case, that's the circumstances that you have to go through when you share the stage with the percussion player. You know, it's a lot about what you think between you guys. It needs at that moment. You know, and I play also with another trap set player also. So it's to find this spot because, I mean, two people saying the same thing at the same time. It works for a while, but then what else are you gonna do? How about if you guys don't have time to rehearse? Or how about if you don't really want to do that? If you want to, kind of keep your style, and I want to keep my style, and I don't really want to. We don't really want to do the thing together. Let's say do the same, everybody, both of us at the same time. Then we have to find ourselves the space, how to share that space in the music,
So two things. First, Dafnis is going to join the intro class tonight in Multimedia Room 1 at 6:20, so if anybody wants to come and hear more from Dafnis, you're welcome to that. And the other thing is Dafnis brought some recordings with him, so if you're interested in acquiring those, I think they are for sale. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So they're right down here. But otherwise, let's please give a welcome, a goodbye to Dafnis Prieto.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Pleasure.